my article today is about home grows, which is something that's near and dear to my heart. So without further ado, from Fox9.com news, homegrown marijuana sales legal under Minnesota Constitution lawsuit claims. St. Paul, Minnesota. The timeline for some Minnesota marijuana sales may move up. Retail licenses are still several months away, but a small group of people are hoping a law from the early 1900s gets them in business. The state constitution changed in 1906 to allow us to sell from our gardens or farms without a license after a farmer was punished for selling his homegrown melons. The Attorney General is now saying marijuana is a different story. As he recovers from a major surgery, Patrick McClellan still has an easy laugh and an expensive treatment. The 57-year-old has muscular dystrophy and was among Minnesota's first medical patients 9 years ago. He started growing his own supply when the price tag got too high, but that also came with a startup cost of almost $4,000. His crop of 2 pounds recently came in, and he wanted to sell some of it. I think it's important to kind of offset the very large costs that home growers are having, McClellan told Fox 9. When it comes to supplying other patients, the new law says you can give away up to 2 ounces of homegrown cannabis, but you can't sell anything without a retail license. McClellan and 3 other men sued, saying Article 13, Section 7 of the state constitution says no license is required for homegrown farms or garden products. The Attorney General's office last week asked a judge to throw out the case. The number one reason they say cannabis plants are not a product of they say cannabis plants are not a product of farms or gardens. McClellan says that's absurd. It's like saying that a tomato is not a tomato, he said. We cannot give our lawmakers the ability to tell us that a plant is now not a plant. The AG's office says sales of controlled substances require a license, and anyone growing cannabis has to follow all the rules and regulations in the new law. Plaintiff's attorney Jeff O'Brien agrees his client couldn't sell marijuana to someone under 21, for example, but he says that the state constitution opens to door. But he says the state constitution opens to door. Nah, their typo, not mine. Opens the door for unlicensed sales on a small scale of what's allowed for home growers. We're not talking about someone being able to open up a dispensary or a large growing operation off of 8 plants, 4 of which are flowering, says O'Brien, a lawyer at Chestnut Cambron. O'Brien says he's trying to get clarity without getting someone arrested or fined for illegal sales they believe are actually legal. A judge is expected to rule on the motion to dismiss later this month, but the case is still headed for an appeals court either way. This is Yarrow Kubrin, High at 9 News, Wednesday, July 3rd.
Shout out to the home
in
growers.
California, they said that in the law that marijuana is not an agricultural crop. Legal fiction. It grows in your backyard or in the field, but it's not an agricultural crop because we have a right to farm law here. And it looks like they're I don't know if they have that in that particular state, the right to farm. It sounds like they put in there something like a right to farm. But if I grow it, I can sell it. Mm-hmm. It's going to be interesting to see how this thing turns out.
I mean, most of the cannabis I've seen does identify as a crop.
Or at least an agricultural commodity.
A plant.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
the policymakers make up this bullshit and they impose it on us. It's like, you're looking at this thing grow in the ground, but it's not a plant.
Dale, why hasn't someone challenged that law here in California? Because that seems like that would be a easy slam dunk lawsuit to change.
Well, I don't know, because it involves our Controlled Substances Act and prohibitions against selling defined products. I mean, it's not simple. I don't know who's going to fund it because these things don't happen for free.
Exactly.
And that's really a lot of what this turns out to be. Is that if you got a couple extra dollars and you want to go pay lawyers to roll the dice for you, go ahead.
How much do you think a case like that would cost?
Multiple 6 figures.
Hundreds of thousands.
Multiple.
Multiple figures. So do you think it's going to be over $500,000?
It would be a Vienna sausage size retainer to get that lawsuit.
No.
Sure.
I just want a real range. You know what I mean? You think it'd be like 200,000 to 500,000, 300,000 to 700,000? Like, what do you think?
2 to 7.
2 to 7.
On how much they fight.
2 to 7.
You're going to get all sorts. Every county and city is going to jump in against you. Okay, you're going to have groups that want to push this going to be on your side, and the more people at the party. I mean, I'm an attorney. My worth is my time and my experience, and every time I talk to somebody, I charge a fair amount of money, and I want to get paid. And I have associates and paralegals and other things that work on this, and this justifies a hell of a lot of work. So a couple $100,000 is not hard to imagine. It could go much further than that, depending on how far this actually goes through the system.
Well, and it also depends on what enemies you create along the way, right? So does the League of Cities get involved?
They're going to be involved for sure.
Try to jump into this, because this in our area, the right to farm conveys with it quite a lot of rights for property owners, the need to not have to mitigate odor in the way that cannabis is regulated. If you're a pig farmer in this area, you don't have to worry about the odor that comes off your agricultural activities in the same way that you would if you were a cannabis cultivator. And so, and so when you say, well, what does this cost? It also depends on the approach. Is someone going right to the state level to try to put a stake in the heart of this differentiation, or are they trying it locally someplace where they think they have the greatest chance of having the ruling that they want, and then having it bump up through the process? But this, I'm not against cannabis being treated as an agricultural commodity, but I also recognize that, like wine, like my Pinot, like my grapes, the end product is intoxicating, right? So I believe that grapes are just another agricultural commodity, but that doesn't mean that I think a 12-year-old should be able to sip Pinot with me by the beach.
Well, technically, I think you could argue that because the plants haven't been prepared to smoke, like you can't just go and just walk up to a live cannabis plant and pick a bud off and expect to smoke it. Like, this is not going to work. So therefore, it wouldn't necessarily. I think it could qualify as a similar thing, because it has to go through a process, just like wine goes through a process until it's in that consumable, intoxicating state.
So you can buy grapes at a farmer's market, right? Are you saying that you should be able to buy undried, uncured cannabis at a farmer's market?
THCA?
I'm just
Well, we know he's not
saying.
going to agree with that. We know he's not going to agree with that, because that's cutting his nose to spite his face on that.
Not really.
It is. You're a retailer, sir.
I'm just saying.
I'm just saying. I mean, I think we have to protect homegrown. As long as cannabis is used as a medicinal product, and we have patients whose lives depend on it, we need to allow them to make sure that they have access, and that includes growing that at home. And I don't know that I actually agree with you, Yarrow. As much as I enjoy a good Pinot as well, I don't think I want my 11-year-old son anywhere around it.
But you would allow your 11-year-old son around Vienna sausages?
No, because those are not healthy snacks. Those are very high in.
You might choke on it.
A lot of sodium.
My son will
whether
never
people
be caught
like it or
choking on a
not,
Vienna sausage. You better calm down, Rico Lamitte.
Weed that's grown in a personal garden is being sold all over the place. Okay, whether if anybody wants to acknowledge it or not, it's not the trap market, but up where I live, people grow weed up here, and it ain't hard to find it from home grow. And you throw a couple bucks at somebody, they'll probably deliver it to you.
100%.
So, I mean, these are all semantic games that these lawmakers like to play, which is one of the reasons we hate the government so goddamn much. It's like, you know, common sense tells you this is not supposed to be happening, but we're surrounded by things that lack common sense.
Yeah, I think a better approach here would be to create incentives for people that are growing at home to make sure that their product is safe before they're potentially giving it or distributing it however they can, right? Whether it's putting liability on them for if they're distributing contaminated weed, or having them carry some small amount of insurance or something like that. I don't know what the right answer is. And don't get me wrong, I hate insurance companies, so I don't know, but that's the right answer. But I'm saying do something from a policy perspective that's not prohibitive. Instead, try to incentivize people that are growing at home to make sure they're doing it in a safe and responsible manner.